Hebrew, boy l'Shabbat, 2 words that changed my life completely. And the minute I entered that new world of Judaism, I remember I always used to take from the synagogue. I started, just sometimes driving, sometimes walking, sometimes I was like, getting in touch with all those Jewish new places. And I realized there's like a booklet you can take home with you. And it was called Sichat HaShavua. It's still every week. You can still read it. It's great. And I remember one sentence I read. I was 16 or 17. I remember one sentence I read back then, and it said, of course, obviously the Rebbe said it, Al tiyeh ohed, tiyeh sachkan, meaning don't be a fan, don't be a spectator, be a player, be active. It became like my slogan, okay? Because I decided I want to be an active, engaged Jew. So don't be a fan. Don't just sit there and tell yourself, just what's wrong and, no criticism. Actions. Go down there. You're part of the team. And being here tonight with that great team, my journey was long, but Baruch Hashem, that was the first thing I remember. The first quote I read, and it gave me a lot of strength and energy to continue that journey. So maybe it's the first message tonight, although just being here together, that's a huge message. But, if you want something short and simple, taking it with you from Gimel Tammuz, don't be a fan, be a player. I think the women here are probably all players.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Wow. Well, you kind of read my thoughts, because I was going to ask you both to bring a little bit about an insight of the Rebbe that you gained that totally blew you away, an aha moment discovered through a read or through something you heard. So you've already brought us into the next next wave. If you'd like to share another insight, and Shane, you can share an aha moment in your life of the Rebbe. I'm sure
I just want to apologize, since you're all English speakers, obviously, and I'm an Israeli. You can hear the accent. We're 8th generation. My kids are 8th generation Israelis. Okay, we didn't do anything. We were just born, but my ancestors came here many years ago. But that phrase, aha moment, I just learned it lately. We came back from the States. We lived there for 8 months of shlichut. We came back because of obviously the coronavirus. But aha moment is a very cool phrase. I just learned it there. So
how lucky I am.
No, you're cool. Yeah, you're definitely cool. Arranging such an evening, you're definitely cool, honey. But I hear about your aha moment, and maybe Shandy, maybe can I add a thought? Maybe in a way it's harder to grow up in a Lubavitcher, in a Lubavitch family, Lubavitch background atmosphere, the center of, Crown Heights, I guess. Maybe it's harder because sometimes for us as Chozrim B'Tshuva, Baalei Tshuva, it's easier. We discover everything is fresh and new. So how can you find an aha moment when you have such a yichus?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say, we all have the same yichus. I promise. That's how we grew up. In our home, we grew up. This is what we were taught. God put everybody here on this earth. Every single person matters. Some people were born into one kind of place. Some people were born into another kind of place. And our home was always a very, very open home. The home I grew up in, we had literally hundreds, I would say thousands of guests that have gone through my parents' house, and Baruch Hashem, that's how we were raised. So all of us, our own homes. But what I want to say is that this is what our parents told us when we were very small. There will be all kinds of people in this home. Some will look like you, many will not look like you. I want you to know one thing, and keep this in your mind forever. You are never better than somebody who comes here that knows less than you. The only thing, maybe you had the opportunity to study what they did not have. But that does not make you better in any way, shape, or form, because the Eibishter, God, Rebbeinu Shalom, put a piece of himself, a helek elokami mal mamish, a piece of himself. It's our neshama. Every person has the same beautiful neshama, and every person was put here on earth for a mission. So I want to share with you something that it was an aha moment for me, but it was an aha moment that I saw on paper, even though I knew it growing up my whole life. And this takes me back to 14 years ago. My father passed away, and my father had with him always a brown cardboard box. And in it were all kinds of papers and things. We never thought much about it. We never really knew what was in it. If he moved, that went with him. And after he passed away, we were looking through the box, and we found incredible, amazing treasures. Now, these were not financial treasures. They were much, much greater. They had tremendous value. What was this? This was something that a chassid did simply for his own self. He never intended for anyone to see it or for anyone to publish it. And it was hundreds of pages of his own personal diaries that he had been writing since he was a young boy, still in what was then called Palestine, before 1948 even. My father was born in Russia. When he was a little boy of about 7, he was able, by a miracle, they were able to escape, and they came to Palestine. And when he became 18 years old, he decided to ask the Lubavitcher Rebbe permission via writing if he can come study in the yeshiva in New York. And from that moment, a little bit before that moment, he kept all these diaries. Now, we found them, we looked through them. I can't even begin to tell you what is in those papers. However, today, thank God, everyone who wants to see them can see them, because at the same time that it was close, shortly after his first yahrzeit, we were making the wedding of our daughter, the first child we were marrying off. And we decided, like all Jews, we get an idea and we decide we could put it together in 3 minutes, even though normally it takes 3 years. And we were able to put together a book. It's actually out in the store. It's called Portrait of a Chassid, and it includes all of his writings, which were all originally in Hebrew or Yiddish. We actually also hired a translator to help us, and it's out. It also has English translation. What I want to share with you was the aha moment I had the day we came across this particular writing in his handwriting, and this is what it said. He writes, I received a telegram so he was 18 and he came to study in the United States. My father had 2 brothers who were older than him, and they remained in Israel. My father received a telegram from his father, and this is what he writes. I received a telegram from my father, and he says, a war in Israel has broken out. I think that you should come back and help us fight for the land. Your brother's blood is not cheaper than yours. But because you are a student in the Lubavitcher Yeshiva under the Rebbe, you must ask the Rebbe permission. So go in, tell the maskiros that you need to go in to see the Rebbe, and ask the Rebbe what you should do, that this is what your father says, but you're asking the Rebbe's advice. And he writes, so I took the telegram and I managed to go into the Rebbe. And I showed this to the Rebbe, and this is what the Rebbe said to me. The Rebbe said the following. He said, by Hashgacha Pratis, you find yourself right now in New York in a yeshiva studying. We all know that a war is fought on 2 fronts. There's the front of the battle. People are the foot soldiers on the ground, the soldiers in the air, that's the Air Force, the ones in the water, the Navy, the Marines, and they fight physically to help us win the war. And then we have the other, it's the clergy, the people who sit and keep up the morale and study Torah. Even, the Rebbe said, even in the United States, lahavdil, the clergy are exempt from going to study. Any student of divinity is supposed to remain at their post in divinity. And so the Rebbe said, so by Hashgacha Pratis, your brothers are fighting physically. You are here in the yeshiva. Your post is to stay here. And then the Rebbe said these words, which to me is the biggest aha moment for anybody living at any age, in any place in the world. The Rebbe said, in times of war, a deserter is not someone who does not fight on the front lines. A deserter is someone who leaves his or her post. So by Hashgacha Pratis, your post is in the yeshiva, you should remain here. And that to me meant God puts each and every one of us somewhere. We have a post in the world. It's a mission. And we cannot be deserters. This is the message of the Rebbe. The Rebbe told us his whole life, and he made us into soldiers. And he said, wherever you belong, wherever you find yourself, you are a soldier. Do not deviate from that path. Instead, keep on forging ahead, regardless of where you find yourself. If you're a Rosh Yeshiva in a yeshiva, if you're a radio personality in the media, if you're a businesswoman, if you're a shlucha, wherever you are, that is the mission that we have to follow and to accomplish and to keep.
Wow. Definitely an aha moment. Very, very interesting. And it helps us realize how those who are, how important are the boys who are now at yeshivot, but also I think that was part of his special philosophy, respect and dignity toward everyone. I mean, respect and cherish those who fight right now in the IDF for us, but also respect those who learn Torah, as you said, the individual shlichut, but you should do it with a lot of devotion and in a serious way. By the way, when I think about it, I will share my aha moment in a moment, but wait a minute. You met the Rebbe in person, right? I mean, maybe you're the only one here with us. We're more than 100 women together, but I don't know how many of us had that chance, were privileged to meet him in person. First of all, I'm jealous. I envy you. And second of all, what can you share and tell us about it? Don't worry, I will have my stories in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. So first of all, again, it was just a source I had. I didn't do anything for it. And I feel that, as we go through life, we all have our mission. Yes, I was very, very, very lucky to have met the Rebbe many, many times, actually. Often personally, I had Yechidut. I'll tell you about one in particular in a moment. And I had the great merit that when I was 12 years old, my family moved from one street in Crown Heights to another, and we moved into the home directly across the street from the Rebbe. And this was not done lightly.
Wait a minute. Am I speaking with the Rebbe's neighbor right now?
Again, it had nothing to do with me. The house was bought after many, many questions asked. It was for sale for a long time, and finally, my parents did buy it with a great, tremendous...
Wow. We have the neighbors who, the son, he plays the guitar until midnight. We have the neighbors who are new immigrants. You had the Rebbe as a neighbor. That's quite,
It was quite impressive. Okay. But I will tell you, one of my youngest memories of meeting the Rebbe is something that really has literally changed my life. And I can't say it changed my life when it happened, because it was all...
What do you want to say?
Shandy, sorry to stop you for a minute. I'm just getting so many calls from people who are trying to get in. We have a capacity that's way more than 100. For some reason, only 100 people can get in and way more want to join. Is there anyone who knows, any one of us hosts who knows how to open this? Avi, can you help us? You're on here, the tech. Just so many people are zapping me that they want to join, and I'm not sure how to expand, but the numbers should be way more than 100. We've got a premium number. So if anyone has an idea.
Chani, I have a link of the live streaming now on Arutz Sheva. I just...
Right. The question is, not everyone knows that, but on this particular Zoom, we had a capacity for more than 100. So that's what I'm trying to...
share that link with others. I just typed it as a message here on the chat. You can share it with others, those who want...
If everyone can just share that link, I'd be so grateful. If you could share this link on groups that you know of, if you know of people trying to get in, that would help, because...
Where's the link for the live?
Yeah. Sivan, if you could share the link the live, that would be fantastic. I have it too, but if you're on the way, so.
Yeah, where do you want me to share it?
Share it here so that anyone who's
here. Look at the chat. I put it twice. Look at the chat.
Okay, we've done our best. Sorry.
I'll put it on the...
On the Wrangler. Okay, so we can continue. We've done our best. Thank you.
Okay, so we have only the first 100 women who joined us. That's okay. So you're also that's the.
We have another 100 knocking on the door to get in. I don't know.
Yeah, wow.
We'll give them the link.
Sorry, but I do think you will have to reopen a Zoom link, and that will be complicated. But check it with the experts. I don't know.
It's okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Please continue, Shandy. I was shocked. But I just want to say something about neighbors. Since I'm speaking to Chabad of Talbia and Mamila, you are going to be my neighbors soon. In a week, we are moving, Bezrat Hashem, to Metudela Street.
Wow.
Sort of Rechavia, Shari Chesed. So Baruch Hashem, we left America, crazy Yetziat Mitzrayim we had, but now we rented a few places, but now we plan to move to Metudela Arbaim, for those who know the place.
Fantastic.
Near Diskin Street. So speaking of neighbors, we will
friends and neighbor.
Yeah. Looking.
Okay, Shandy.
Shandy, please continue.
Okay, now I'm jealous of you. Okay, we'll all be together very soon in Yerushalayim. Okay, so of course, I didn't realize the impact of this when I was 5, but I could tell you that once I grew up, this has never left my mind. So we were very, very fortunate that in honor of a special occasion in the family, in the Chabad family, the people that at least lived in New York, and then later there were other occasions also for people who came, of course, from everywhere, you were able to go and have a yichidut with the Rebbe, a private audience. Now that was for a wedding, a bar mitzvah, and also for the birthday of the head of the family. So my father was having a birthday. It was 3 days before Rosh Hashanah is his birthday. And around Tishrei time, the Rebbe always had Yechidut. And this is the only time growing up that I remember that we had a family meeting. Our parents sat us down. We were 5 siblings. And they told us what it's going to be like to go into the Rebbe. And they told us it's like going to see the king. It's royalty. We're all going to wear our most beautiful clothes that we bought for Rosh Hashanah. It's going to be probably in the middle of the night because hundreds and hundreds of people are waiting. And then my father said like this, I will put a note on the Rebbe's desk and nobody speaks unless the Rebbe speaks to you. The Rebbe speaks to you, you answer. Okay, it was so special that this is way over 50 years ago, and I still remember what I was wearing that day. And we all were ready to go into the Rebbe, and I remember just being very tired, standing outside of the Rebbe's room in a long line, and finally my parents saying, okay, we are getting ready to go in. And sure enough, this is what I remember next, that we walked into the Rebbe's room, and I remember that the Rebbe spoke to my father, and then, I don't remember what he spoke about. And then the Rebbe asked each of us children in age order, from the oldest to the youngest, what we had learned in school that day. Now, before I continue, I have to explain something to you. In those years, we went to school for the first time when we were 5. I know today my grandchildren, when they're 5, they're already going to school for 3 years. But then it was wonderful to be home with your mother. I had no intention of ever leaving her. I was very happy. So it was a big deal that the baby in the family was finally going to school. And I have to tell you what happened. My mother took me to school on the first day. She introduced me to the teacher. And I still could feel that lump in my throat that all I wanted to do was cry when she left. And of course, the teacher introduced us all. She gave us all a seat to sit in. And I still remember that there was with these old-fashioned wooden desks that they each two were connected to each other. And I sat down, and there was a little girl that sat down next to me. To make a long story short, because we don't have too much time, as the first few minutes of the day started going on, I realized that this little girl, for some reason, does not like me. First, she kicked me under the desk, And then when the teacher turned around, she pinched me. And then when I was coloring, she pulled away my crayon. Anyway, in my 5-year-old mind, I decided that, you know what? When the teacher had told us that we're all going to go outside to play. So I thought when we go outside to play, I'll walk over to the teacher and I'll tell her that this child is bothering me. But before we had a chance to do that, for a 5-year-old, I made a terrible discovery, which was that this little girl was the teacher's daughter. And in my 5-year-old mind, I couldn't figure out how to tell the mother that her daughter is bullying me, right? So we didn't know that word. We didn't know the word bullying yet. Anyway, so I just decided to keep quiet. The day was over. My mother came to pick me up. Everyone asked me how school was. Everyone made a fuss. I said it was amazing. I don't know why till today why I did not say the truth. But after that, every day there was a big struggle in our home. Some day I would cry, I don't want to go to school. I would say I can't go, I don't feel good, all kinds of things. Some days I won the battle and I got to stay home with my mother and I was delighted. Some days I lost and I went to school and I was living in fear and terror. And my parents couldn't understand what was wrong with me. I was the only child in the family that didn't want to go to school. Anyway, so here we are. It's a few weeks after school starts, and we're going into this that night. The Rebbe asks each of us what we learned in school that day. And he asked my sister, and interestingly enough, she responded what she had studied in her Hebrew studies. And then the Rebbe asked her, what did you study in your secular studies? And he asked her about that. Then he asked my brother, my next sister, my next brother, and then the Rebbe said to me, now this whole exchange took place in Yiddish. I'll translate. That was our first language. I didn't even speak English till I went to school. And the Rebbe said to me last, and what did you learn in school today? And that was one of the days where I had won the battle and I had not gone to school. So I became very embarrassed and I didn't know what to say. So I just looked at the floor. And the Rebbe said to me in Yiddish, what's the matter? You're embarrassed to tell me? And somehow my 5-year-old heart just burst and I burst out crying. And at that moment, my father said to the Rebbe, we don't know what's wrong with her. She refuses to go to school. The teacher said everything's okay, but we don't understand what's wrong. And this is what the Rebbe said. He said, he took both of his hands and he went like this to my parents, and he winked at me with his eye while he did that. And he said to my parents while looking at me, Zorgt sich nicht, mistana hat eine amegala gecheppet. Don't worry, probably one of the little girls started up with her. And at that moment, I felt like all my worries had gone. We came out, and my father picked me up, and my parents were hugging me, and they said, what happened? I said, don't you know that kid? She hit me, she kicked me, she pinched me. They said, why didn't you tell us? I said, I couldn't tell you because she's the teacher's daughter. Even though I don't understand, now you could understand why children don't tell when you're an adult. Anyway, you could imagine the next day, my mother took me to school. She explained to the teacher. And of course, she changed my seat. P.S. This girl is a very dear friend of mine till today. She's a powerhouse, and I'm not joking. She has a large family, a very successful business. She had massive energy.
Okay.
Taught me tremendous sensitivity. And when I became a mother, these words came into my mind every day. When I became a teacher, I never forgot these words. Never walk into a classroom without thinking that something may be in the heart of a child, and you could make it or break it.
Yeah, wow.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Shandy, you anticipated my next thought, which was, Shandy and Sivan, do you have a story of the Rebbe close to your heart that you can bring about here? And you've just done it a la carte. Wow. Wow.
I think that story, and it's an endless source of stories. Think about it. 26 years passed already. And what a loss and what a mission, what a task we should all take upon us. I mean, the project, okay, we should all end and finish, reach final redemption. We still have a lot to do, but I think those small stories, I'll tell you something personal, okay? Whenever I come to the Kinnis, and I love that annual event, twice I saw the men's Kinnis, and once I was part of the women's Kinnis this year. Wow, boy, that was quite an experience, because I think 2 weeks afterwards, the world basically collapsed, changed everything, like upside down. I just want to say something. Imagine 4,000 women sitting, dancing, hugging each other together in one hall. Okay, that was the event I covered as a journalist. I work here in Israel as a journalist, and I covered it for Channel 12 or 12 for Israeli TV. And the video, we edited it there. I mean, we lived in New York, and me, my husband Yedidia, we worked very hard arranging and editing everything. And that became, Baruch Hashem, the rating was boom, was really, really high. It was a really successful part of the news that night. It was even the most watched every night. They check the rating. It's called rating per minute. They check the rating per minute, and that was the most watched, the most viewed minute that night on Israeli TV. I think 600,000 people saw that piece. But it obviously proves how much people you're interested. It's not only Chabad. I think it's the shluchot. I think if I was covering the shluchim annual kinus, it wasn't so interesting. The fact we're speaking about shlichot, these are not, eshet shaliach, the shaliach's wife. No. They're shlichot. I think it shows something, and that's part of the special message of that day and of the Rebbe. I mean, making each individual into that shaliach. You shouldn't be a Chabad Chassid in order to understand that you are sent here for a mission. That the soul was sent. Shaliach in Hebrew means shlichut. I guess most of the women here understands Hebrew. Shlichut, to send someone somewhere, and our soul was sent, from the Olam Elyon, the world up there, into this physical lower world, and we all have this mission. We all have our shlichut to do here. I think that was the Rebbe's philosophy in a way, making us, all of us, making us shlichim. That's how I see it. I mean, I think that's the main thing we can take from that day.
Okay, that's incredible. Do you have a story of your own that's close to your heart? What's your favorite story of the Rebbe?
Sure. I'll tell you something. First of all, that's the first Gimel Tammuz event that is really taking place on Gimel Tammuz for me, because that special day just started here in Israel. It's during that week, I had the chance, of speaking to many communities. Yesterday, I spoke with the Jews of Japan. I guess the shlucha there. She invited me to speak. I think her name is also Khani, by the way, if I remember correctly. But also Japan and London. We had an event for the Hebrew speakers of London. It's funny. I spoke in Hebrew with the people of London and in English with the women in Yerushalayim. That's quite confusing. But we had a huge event in Hebrew with great communities in London, and also Milano in Italy, and New York, obviously. And what else? Oh, of course, Uganda. How can I forget Uganda? And Thailand.
So what was the top of the Pops Rebbe story?
Here's the story. That was just an introduction. But really seeing the whole world, it was only a preparation for the real event now, Gimel Tammuz. And the story goes like this. I don't know. It's. I find it very exciting, very sad, but also very, very exciting. Okay, imagine the Jews of Ukraine, Odessa. The shlicha there, Chaya Wolf. I'm proud to say, a friend of mine. She told me she almost cried. Erev Chag Shavuot. They prepared, before the holiday. They prepared the synagogue in order to invite the kids to listen and hear the 10 Commandments, to hear Aseret HaDibrot, according to the minhag, to invite the kids. It was one of the projects the Rebbe encouraged, to bring the kids to listen to Aseret HaDibrot. They are, it's their obligation. They are the Arevim in order to pass it on to the next generation. So they realized they can't do it inside their synagogue, their shul. It's not, you can't bring the kids in, social distancing. So what they did was building new synagogues on, the sidewalks, the pavements, basically on the streets. Okay, so they built something out of wood, and they told the people that's how we'll celebrate Shavuot this year together. So 2 Ukrainian men, Jews, reached, they came and asked Chaya and her husband, Harav Avraham, and they told him, wow, Sukkot, where is Arbaat Aminim? And they were like, oh boy, what's going on here? Why are you asking for Arbaat Aminim for the 4 species, Lulav, Adas, Etrog, Arava? What's wrong with you? And those 2 Jews said, what do you mean? We saw the sukkah outside of the Chabad house. You built the sukkah. It's Sukkot. How unaffiliated can you be? How lost? You seriously think it's Sukkot? It's Tishrei? No, it's Shavuot. It's the month of Sivan. We received the Torah. Tell me, if you think now, we're celebrating Sukkot, we're about to celebrate Sukkot, where were you during Yom Kippur 4 days ago? Where were you during Rosh Hashanah? Chaya told me that story with tears in her eyes. And I told her, I think that's the most fantastic story I heard for Gimel Tammuz this year. We still have millions of brothers and sisters out there. We tend to think it's us. All those Zoom meetings, hundreds of Zoom shiurim and lectures and hartzaot and events and from Brengens and all those events. So many, we sometimes forget we live in a bubble. It's a beautiful bubble. What you do there, Chabad of Talbiya, Mamila, it's a beautiful bubble. But we should always remember, unfortunately, the majority of the Jewish nation is now outside of that bubble. They seriously think about it. Can you imagine? You would think it's Sukkot right now. I mean, how many things you should forget in order to think that now it's the holiday of Sukkot? I mean, how much knowledge do you have? And I told her, listen, you see it as a negative story. She told me, I think about our shlichut, 30 years here, and they know nothing, and that's what they're asking us. And I told her, no, that's a reminder. It's the most beautiful story I heard, and I'm going to share it with others. I promised her, and that's what I'm doing here. Always remember, you said hundreds of women want to come in. Millions of women are not here with us now on this Zoom meeting, and perhaps they don't even know what Sukkot is. Okay, that's even a harder situation, and it means there's homework here. We have a lot of work to still do together. That's our mutual project for our generation.
Wow, that's incredible. That reminds me of a Shavuot story that happened this year to me, which took me back many years to a story that's very close to my heart about the Rebbe, the one that first really brought me to understand in my small mind just a little bit of what I didn't understand of the greatness of the Rebbe. So,
what's the story?
So, when I was 7 years old, which seems many moons away, my mother took my sister and myself to the Rebbe for our first Yechidus meeting. And I still remember the hype at that age of 7, thinking, wow, I won the jackpot. I'm going to see the Rebbe. And I won't go into all the details that led up to getting into that room, but when I was finally standing in front of the Rebbe, I had an X-ray that I won't forget. I still feel the X-ray of the warmth and the love of the Rebbe, and that feeling that this man knew everything about me, what I was, what I am, and whatever I may try to be. The Rebbe knew it. There was no doubt in that little brain of mine that this was, wow, a generator from which I'd be able to draw a lot of kochot. Now, that day, my mother had taken us to daven in 770. And of course, that was my first real live davening with the Rebbe. And I saw hundreds and thousands of Hasidim come to daven with the Rebbe. And all the eyes were pointing to that one little space by the red chair.
The red chair at the corner, yeah.
Famous red chair.
On the stage.
That's right. And just when those feelings were growing inside me of, wow, this is incredible, what a great man. Look at all of us looking up to this great man. That great man, the Rebbe, in the middle of davening, bowed so low for Moedim, it shocked me. Here were so many Hasidim looking at the Rebbe, as if he was, and he is, wow, the greatest man ever. And this greatest man was the most humble being ever. And I walked away not being this football fan of the Rebbe, but wanting to daven to Hashem better. That's what the Rebbe did to me. I saw the kavanah and the avodah, and it struck me. And with that, I went to the Yechidus that night. And what happened during that Yechidus brought home even more poignantly what I had seen that day in davening. Because what happened was the Rebbe was talking with my mother, and the Rebbe asked me a few questions, and then the Rebbe turned to my sister. And the Rebbe asked her, in Yiddish, did you receive Chanukah geld from me this year? Now, the Bavitch principals of schools around the globe would receive Chanukah geld, money to give out to the students. And so my sister, Sarla, answered, yes, I received Chanukah geld from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe looked at her very intently and very kindly and opened his drawer. And just to her, the Rebbe turned and he gave her another Chanukah coin, geld. And he said, just in case you didn't receive or you don't have it, here, I'm giving you Chanukah geld. And my sister, I received. And the Rebbe insisted and gave her the Chanukah geld. When we returned home, it turned out that she had lost the Chanukah geld. And my parents were too afraid to tell her, but the Rebbe knew about the pain that would be caused to this child, that her famous, incredible Chanukah geld was lost. And so he preempted that by making sure that this little child was so busy with running the world of Yahadut and whatnot, but it wasn't less important to worry about this small child. And that's a story that actually brought me to Erev Shavuot, because Erev Shavuot, I was thinking to myself, oh no, 26th year of Gimel Tammuz is coming. It's around the corner. And I always begin with these feelings of, wow, I saw, but my children, how will I ever fire them up with the Rebbe that's inside me? How will they ever do it? How will they ever get it? How will they get it? They just they don't see what I saw. It was a night before Shavuos. I was busy making my cheesecakes. And it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. And I saw there was a light on one of the kids' rooms. And I went into their room and I saw that one of the children was awake. It was dark. And they had a little flashlight under their blanket. I said, I don't believe it. You're reading? You're reading now? You're reading now? Why are you up? Why are you up? And I lifted up the quilt. And underneath the quilt was a book called Rabbeinu Nisiyenu. I just gave that child a big hug and I thought to myself, don't worry about connecting them. These children are connected today in a way more than ever before, with their chitat, with their Rambam, with their shiurim, in such a powerful way. The Rebbe's energy is here evermore. And yet, it's 26 years, and I still can't believe that it's 26 years after Gimel Tammuz, because I remember the first Gimel Tammuz saying, no, it can't happen. The Geula has to come. And here we are, 26 years later, I'm asking myself, 1 minute, where's the Rebbe? Show me, give me some strength. So I'd like to, it's a Farbrengen now, I'd like to share with you a nigun that really is for Rosh Hashanah, but was composed with a little expansion by Eli Marcus and friends that really, I think, belongs on the table on Gimel Tammuz, and each person can take what they want. But it was so precious to me, I decided this is a gift I wanted to share with you right in the middle of Farbrengens that we can take off high after that.
Nigun is higher than Olam HaDibur. Chani, we have Olam HaNigun and Olam HaDibur. So let's uplift ourselves. It's a new level, a new stage, and you take us there.
Ivan, you're the Chabadnik. Let's go. Adi, can we please have that nigun and just go into a bit of hitbonenut?
A story old, yet so new, breaks our heart, yet so true. A story of Hasidim traveling to Lubavitch, coming to the Rebbe to be with him once a year. A month goes past, the time draws near, he must depart from what's most dear, returning to his city where Hasidim await him. Tell us, dear Chassid, what did you see? What did you hear? L'chaim, friends, with tears in his eyes, Mirobin Rebbe, the Chassid replies, no matter who we are, just being there gives us strength for the coming year. But tell us what you heard, the Hasidim demand. My mind was full, my heart was clogged, I could not understand. The Maimarim were too deep, I couldn't hear a thing. This is all I can repeat. Nahoy tikru b'chodesh, b'chodesh hashvi'i shuvo Yisroel, ayeramoy laroy amamam, ayayo naroy tikru b'chodesh, b'chodesh hashvi'i shuvo Yisroel, ayeramoy laroy amamam, oy, oy, oy. Times have passed, things have changed, but one thing still remains, the journey of Hasidim from far and from near, coming to their Rebbe to be with him once a year. A month goes past, the time draws near, he must depart from what's most dear, returning to his city where Hasidim await him. Tell us, dear Chassid, what did you see? What did you hear? L'chaim, friends, with tears in his eyes, Mirobin Rebbe, just open up your eyes. No matter who we are, just being there gives us strength for the coming year. Although I did not see, although I did not hear, there is no doubt in my mind that Rebbe was there with us. He did dance, to us he did speak. This is all I can repeat. Nahoy tikru b'chodesh, b'chodesh hashvi'i shuvo Yisroel, ayeramoy laroy amamam, ayayo naroy tikru b'chodesh, b'chodesh hashvi'i shuvo Yisroel, ayeramoy laroy amamam, oy, oy, oy.
I think that was perfect. Thank you. Thank you. We needed to bring Nigun here because, as we know from the Alter Rebbe, music is the pen of the soul, and they can verbring in ways that we could never even find in our jargon. And I want the Rebbe to know that we came and we're here at this verbringen and we want to see him. It's not enough. It's not enough to have our kids connected. We're living through crazy times, and the world is begging for the Geula, and we want to be inspired and empowered as to how to drag ourselves with these last few moments towards the Geula. And so therefore I put it out to you, Shandi, and then we'll go to Sivan and we'll say Elachaim. Can you share with us an Uvachain? We know the Rebbe always spoke Tachlis after Fabrengen. What's the Uvachain? How do you see the Uvachain for all of us women, Vishat Yisrael, to take away from a Fabrengen and resolve to really not just do, but to live and to feel until we've reached the Geula?
I want to say that I think each and every one of us has to have the same answer, and that is the Rebbe told us that he did everything he could, and he leaves it now to us. Wow, that is not a light statement of any kind, but as Sivan said earlier, that's exactly the mission that the Rebbe left us with. He left us with the mission that each and every one of us is a soldier, is a shliach, a shlucha. And to every single person out there in the world, of course, not just our little inner circle, but every single Jew. And sometimes it's a little bit more comfortable, and often it's a lot not comfortable. But we are faced every day with numerous, if we open up our eyes, we see every day there are numerous opportunities for us to have hashpah on the world and whatever we know. Like the Rebbe said, if you only know Aleph, you're obligated to share Aleph with another Jew. If you only know Torah Tziva, then you're obligated. You don't have to be the greatest scholar. Whatever you know, you have to share with another person. And this goes in Torah study, it goes in Yira Shamayim, it goes in Kabbalah's all, and most important, I think, it goes in our Tchonos HaNefesh, in our human nature, in our being kind and good. The Rebbe himself said to add in deeds of goodness and kindness. I'll share with you something that, you know, when I think about it, it just makes me cry, but it shows you, you know, some things are more glorious to be part of, and some things are very, very difficult to be part of. But you never know. Hashem calls upon us to do something to help a Jew who needs help. It doesn't matter where the Jew is, what the Jew is, who the Jew is, matters not. What matters is, I'm a Jew, I have to connect. We all know the famous thing of the Friedrich Rebbe, the Rebbe Rashab and his brother, Reb Zalman Aaron, were playing as children. They play, what do children play? Children play what they see at home. So we would play whatever we played. They played Rebbe and Hasid. So one of them dressed up like the Rebbe. That was, actually, he was younger, but he did become the Rebbe. That was the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, and his brother of Zalman Aaron, who was about a year and a half older. He was the Hasid. The Rebbe Rashab put on a little jacket and a hat and a gartel and sat himself down by a table. And there was a knock on the door. And he said, come in, and in walked in his brother, who was the Chassid, who came to seek counsel. And he walked in, and the Rebbe said to him, how could I help you? And he said to his brother, Rebbe, was is a Id? Rebbe, tell me, what is a Jew? And his brother, in his wisdom, 7 or 8 years old, looked at him, and he said, a Jew? A Jew is a fire. So he grabbed his brother's hand, and he said, yeah, if a Jew is a fire, then why am I not getting burnt? And the Rebbe Rashab looked at his brother, 2 little children, and he said to him, yes, when a person touches a fire, when something touches a fire, it gets burnt. But when one fire touches another fire, it doesn't get burnt. It becomes one big roaring flame. So this is what no matter what, we touch a Jew, we are connected, and it doesn't only help the Jew, it helps us, and then it helps the world. So I'll share with you, it was literally right before Pesach, maybe 2 days before Pesach. And it was a very difficult time for everybody in the whole world. You know, we all know it was Corona and lockdown, and Pesach and family was never in my life that I had to say there was only my husband and I, but that's what it was. It was a very, very sad time. It was making, you know, here in Crown Heights especially, we lost tremendous amounts of friends and people that we knew. And at the same time, I had a family member that was very, very ill. And it was very, everything made me cry. And living here, you heard in Crown Heights, especially on Eastern Parkway, because that's where I live, 24/7, the sirens of Hatzalah. And I'm not joking. We felt like we were in a war. And it was very, very difficult times. And my sister, who is a shlucha, her name is Reichel Margolin in Norfolk, Virginia. And she called me and she couldn't even speak. And she said, you won't believe this. I have to tell you what I just finished doing. And she said the following. She said, who would have ever thought that a day before Pesach, I would find myself doing this? I never thought I would do this in my entire life. It's the last thing in the world I would do. But this is obviously something that the Rebbe sent me here because maybe this was the whole reason I have to be here. She lives here for over 40 years. And she said she received a phone call from the hospital in Virginia, in her town. And somebody said, we found your number. We were told to call Chabad. There is a woman who has nobody in the world, no next of kin, and she passed away. And we were told that she needs a Jewish burial. So we called the Jewish Burial Society in this town. And they told us that all the people who are part of the Jewish Burial Society are elderly. And they were warned not to do anything because of the COVID-19. And so we don't know what to do. What should we do with her? So the Burial Society said, if anyone can help you, it's going to be Chabad. So my sister said, 1 minute, I'm going to see what I could do. And she said, what did she do? She called a Rav. And she said, I never did Tahara in my life. I know nothing about this. But this is a Jewish soul. What should I do? And they told her to call the Havra Kadisha over there and see if they could help her. So she called. She said, look, I won't. She called the doctor. He said, the woman didn't pass away from COVID. It's okay. It's safe. He said, so between the rabbis and the doctors, she went to the Havra Kadisha. They gave her tahrikim. They gave her a crash course in 10 minutes, what she had to do. And the doctors told her how to suit up and everything else. And she said, she's telling me this, and she's crying on FaceTime. And she says, so I came to the funeral home. She says, and I did whatever I was supposed to do. I never did such a thing in my life, she said. But all I kept thinking about was what it says in Parshas Emor. What does it say? That a Kohen cannot be busy with a person that passes away. He's not permitted no matter what. And then it also says, not his mother or his father. So we all know, Rashi and the Mefarshim say, what do you mean? It already said he can't be near a mace. Why also, of course, anyone means his mother and father too. So Rashi says, yes, because he's not allowed to bury his own mother or father. But if there is a mace mitzvah in the city, there's nobody to take care of a person who has no one, he is allowed to do it. And she said, if a Kohen Gadol could do this, certainly I could do it. And she said, and this is what really got me. This is what it means to be a soldier. He said, I finished the job. And then I stood up in front of the woman. And I said to her, I'm asking you, Mechila, I hope you forgive me if I didn't do something right. I promise you I did the best I could. For whatever I knew, please forgive me. She said, and this is what I felt. That was my shluchus. And I don't know if I could ever do such a thing again. But it made me realize, yes, there are all kinds of crazy things going on in the world. But we, the Jewish people, we are the people that have to keep this world the way it's supposed to be. We have to show that we care about every single individual.
Wow. Sending you, first of all, hugs and a lot of support from Israel. To you, to the people of Crown Heights, we think about you. We pray, we daven for you. You were there for us. For years, you prayed for the people of Israel. And we know what's going on in the States, in the communities. And the story about your sister is really overwhelming. Kol hakavod. And my message is much more simple, and in a way, maybe it's how we say, I think it's in Yiddish, tachlis. Tachlis, it's in Yiddish, right? You know what it means.
It's a Yiddishified Hebrew saying, tachlis.
Tachlit, something practical, something lemaise, something tachlis.
What do you say?
I want to share a challenge I faced. Almost 10 years ago, I covered the Supreme Court for the Israeli TV. And I covered 2 trials, Ehud Olmert's trial and Moshe Katzav's trial. I won't elaborate, I won't go into details, don't worry, it's Gimel Tammuz. But those 2 gentlemen ended up in jail. Ehud Olmert was Israel's prime minister, Moshe Katzav was Israel's president. And they both, really, at the end of the day, were accused, 2 different, if you want to really talk about it philosophically, I had some time to think, philosophically, I think those are the 2 basic sins, okay? If you look at the details, the 2 things they did, 2 basic sins. And then I started thinking about that word manhig, a leader, manhig in Hebrew. They were leaders, right? Think about it. Just, the security, the secretaries, the red carpets, the cars, the vehicles, everything was very, no, that wasn't manhigut. A manhig is someone who can lehanhig himself. A leader is someone that, first of all, controls and leads his personality. If you can control, your acts, your deeds, what you do, the way you treat money or the way you treat women, those were the 2 issues there, you're not such a manhig. And for me, it was quite a crisis. Seriously. I was younger, and I had little kids. We have 5 kids, Baruch Hashem, my husband, Yedidia, and I, 5 kids. But they were little, and they were asking me, Mommy, what did you do when you go to work today? When I came back, what did you do today? And I was like, I don't know, listening to the investigations and the victims, it wasn't so pleasant. And I started thinking about my shlichut. I changed the topics, the content of what I do as a journalist. But I also decided to do something really, really small, and that's the tachlis advice, the tachlis tip I want to give you. I decided I want to learn something daily. A daily 5 minutes. Learn something daily. And I always read, when you read the igrot, the letters the Rebbe wrote, he says, Shloshet HaShiurim. I don't know if you're all familiar with it, but it's quite simple. It's called chitas, chet taf taf, chitat. Chumash, Tehillim, Vetanya. And I said to myself, maybe that's the daily thing I should, maybe that's my Kabbalah. Before I go to the court, to listen to, once again, to all those details and investigations with those, as I said, leaders, I see a different leader, lehavdil, or you can't say lehavdil when we're speaking about Jews, but you understand the difference. Here's another. It's not a political leader. It's a spiritual leader, much more influential at the end of the day. We discuss politics too much, okay? The leaders are not only political leaders, with all due respect. And I see it's like his recommendation. At the end of every letter, he writes, I'm sure you learned the 3 shiurim yomiyim, the 3 daily shiurim. And I thought something short, accessible, available, daily may help me. So I took this booklet called Dvar Malchut, and I started learning just the daily portion of the parsha, the weekly portion, Akarua Yomi, the 1 out of 7 parts, of the parsha every week. And then suddenly on Shabbat, you realize, wow, I finished, I read the whole parsha. How can that be? And so that's the Chet, Chumash. Then you have Taf, Tehillim. I said 3-4 chapters. It's very simple. And then once a month, every Rosh Chodesh, I realized I said the whole Tehillim book. Am I, you have those old ladies sitting at the Western Wall all day. It's not me. How can I say the whole Sefer Tehillim Shalem in 1 month? Incredible. And once a year, if you learn 1 paragraph of Tanya, Chet Taf Taf, Chumash Tehillim Tanya, if you learn just 1 part of the basic book of Chassidut Tanya, even if you don't understand, I think the soul understands. I mean, it's something a deeper, you absorb something, even if it's, too deep for your brain, something is absorbed. So you learn one paragraph, and then at the end of the day, once a year, you, meaning me, okay, I will finish reading the whole Tanya book. That's impossible. Well, it's possible. And I think a daily it doesn't have to be the same thing. Don't copy paste the content. You can choose. It depends on, who you are and what you want, but that's my recommendation. Anyway, choosing something daily can change your life completely. The next day, I don't like all those miracles. I know there are so many miracles and stories. I usually tend to look for stories that will help me be a better person. I don't need all those proofs and miracles about, tzaddikim, but what can I tell you? The next day, I started learning. The next day, I got the most exclusive interview ever. Moshe Talansky, the key witness in Olmert's trial, asked me to interview him. That's really, it's impossible, but that's what happened the next day, okay? I said, okay, as I said, no, I'm not looking for miracles and signs, but that was a nice thing that happened one day after I started. Baruch Hashem, many years passed, and since this, COVID-19 crisis started, it was really hard. And this week, before Gimel Tammuz, I said to myself, listen, you must be more serious. I think for 2 weeks, I missed and I skipped and I forgot to say the Tehillim, the Chumash, the Tanya. So I had my own project of, learning everything and saying everything before, like today. Baruch Hashem, now, no chavot, okay? Nothing I should, nothing from the past that I didn't learn or say. And I truly want to ask all the really incredible women that are here with us tonight to think about a daily, tachlis, practical thing they can learn. Since, changing the world, and you said beautiful things, Shandy, about being a fire and being a fighter at the beginning of the conversation. And all the stories we share are great, but maybe they're too great. And the best thing, a Jewish woman can maybe do today is to decide about something very small and simple. It won't change your life in a minute, but I think at the end of the day, it will change and improve your life and the whole world, Be'ezrat Hashem. So that's my tachlis tip.
Wow, thank you so much, Sivan. So we have this overchain of taking a little tachlis that we can actually do b'maaseh, and we also have the message that we were given just now of you gotta do what you have to do, even if it's not within your comfort zone. And I think never has that message been more pertinent than in the times that we are living now during COVID, which is at the moment still on the rampage. There are people who are isolated. There are people who are alone, maybe on your street. Let's open our eyes, and while we're putting on our masks, let's think about the other people around us and check on them, give them a call, see how they are. That's exactly what the Rebbe would say to us. So we have that fire and that doing what you have to do, and the marching order of the Rebbe, which is, yes, we have to learn and we have to do achitat and tachlis, but the Avas Yisrael is like the overall crowning glory. That fire to keep us going comes through feeling echad, uniting with each other, connecting with each other, which is what we just did today. And may we continue to do so. Let's be mitva'ed, let's connect more often and use the technology that the Rebbe always spoke about for good things and for Yahadut and for being with each other and getting people out of isolation and coming home to the Rebbe. As one of my children turned to me today and said, Mommy, Ayom Gimel Tammuz, Ha'erev. And then he said to me, Rabbi, Magia Habaita, is the Rebbe coming home? Oh, I love that kid. I love all of them. But this kid just churns it out straight to the point. And I listened to that, and it kind of electrified me for a minute. He looked at me and he said, is the Rebbe coming home? And I said to him, Chamud, we are coming home to the Rebbe. We're getting closer to the Rebbe. Anachnu mitkashrim yoter LaRebbe. We're getting close to the Rebbe. We are coming home. Are we on the, do we have our GPS working on the route to the Rebbe? Why are we 26 years after Gimel Tammuz? And I'm telling you, when we come home to the Rebbe's on the way to meet us. All Am Yisrael want to unite with each other in in Harabi. And we all need to, first of all, we have to make a prayer here that all the Choli Yisrael get better and have a refuah shlema koreva. And then we have to come home to the Rebbe. We're going to make a l'chaim to all of Am Yisrael, and especially the people who need it most now. But let's leave tonight by saying, first of all, let's stay together. Let's stick together. You and I, we're not alone. We have each other. We have a Rebbe. We have a Kadosh Baruch Hu who is running this world. And we have to just keep close to him. And then we can ride on the shoulders and take that last really bumpy ride to Geula, to that yellow brick road of Geula Achshav. But let's remember, we need to come home to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's on his way to us. Thank you so much, Shendi and Sivan, for firing us up with your warmth. Thank you, friends, for being a part of this, whether it was on Zoom or on YouTube or on Facebook. And let's say l'chaim. Everyone, take a glass, fill your glasses, think of those people who need your brachas. Think of all of Am Yisrael. Let's make a l'chaim together. Shendi and Sivan, go for it. Let's unmute everybody, and everybody should say l'chaim for each other. Right.
We just want to leave. If you could still hear me, I don't know. Can you still hear me? Okay. I want to leave with not leave. I want to Hasidim never say goodbye, but we're not saying goodbye. In Mirz Hashem, we will be reunited again, not only on Zoom, but for real. This time we will all be coming to you.
Amen.
That's why Crown Heights, I said, no one has to come here anymore. We're all coming to Eretz Yisrael. I always tell everyone who goes to Eretz Yisrael, the last time I was there was a few years ago. It's time to come back. We actually planned a trip, but we couldn't take it now. So, Mirz Hashem, I tell whoever I know that's going, please save me a beautiful spot somewhere not too far from the Har HaBayis. But wherever it is,
there's one here for you right here. I'm sitting with the background outside my window. You can see the Kaisel. In that window behind it is the Kaisel Ma'aravi, right there waiting for you.
I actually have a brother who unfortunately is no longer with us. He had passed away very young from an unfortunate situation, but he was one of the first children. He happened to be visiting my uncle and his wife. That was at the Ma'aravi when it was liberated. So we grew up feeling like, I know it's not supposed to say this word, but I tell everybody I'm a Zionist, and that's it. So we're all going to be coming back in Mirz Hashem very, very soon, with the Rebbe leading us. So I want to share a bracha. These are literally the words that the Rebbe said to my father when he was turning 23. He had such a fantastic bracha. I share it with all my friends, my relatives, and each and every one of us here today. I'll say it in Yiddish and I'll translate it, but I think this is really the real uvechein that we, each and every one of us, has to do in our own way. Each of us has a way to do it. So the Rebbe told him the following. The Rebbe is telling him about the Friedrich Rebbe. He said, der Eberster soll helfen, als a Teil von die Sachen, was der Rebbe hat gewollt ausführen, sollen sich und werden durch dir. God should help you that at least a little bit, a part of some of the multiple things that my father-in-law, the Rebbe, wanted to accomplish in this world should be accomplished through you. This is a universal bracha to each and every single one of us. No one is too small. No one is too big. This is the great equalizer. We're all here in this world together. We all desperately need Mashiach. We all want to see a world of goodness and kindness and beauty and grace and wonders and miracles. So Hashem should help us. I don't know. I could just say that I find that women, Jewish women, we say it from our heart and we mean it from our heart. So the Eibishter should have Rahmanis that the Nashim of this generation, I only take the liberty of saying that they're Nashim Tzidkani because that's what it says, that they are this generation, the last generation of Golos, they are the Gilgulim of the Nashim Tzidkaniyas of Mitzrayim. So just like they were redeemed from Mitzrayim, so should we be redeemed from the Golos. L'chaim, to long life, l'chaim, to wonderful things, to be reunited with our Rebbe. Everybody who needs refuas, yeshuas, and geulas should be granted them, each person according to what they need. May we all merit to see the Rebbe today. L'chaim.
Amen. L'chaim, gesund, geula, together with everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Sivan. Thank you, Shandy. You were warm, and just really, really special. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. תודה רבה לך, everyone.
Thank you, everybody, and we will really meet together.
Amen, amen. תודה רבה. תודה, Hani, for organizing everything.
That's right. Honey, thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Sivan,
here without you.
for carving space in your crazy schedules to come and be together and just empower us. Infuse us with inspiration. You definitely did. Toda, toda, toda. Yashar koach.
And that's to all of you. All the best. Be well.
Thank you so much.
למה אני עשית זה משמע אנשים מדברים באנגלית קשישות עכשיו.
You wanna learn English?
כאילו יש לי את העצבים לשמוע עכשיו קשישות מדברות אנגלית. אמא, מה? למי יש את העצבים?